So, if you are serious about growing your production and building a business that doesn't stop when you do, then these weekly mastermind drops are going to be for you. I'm going to pull back the curtain on exactly what's working right now for top agents across the country. So, let's get to work.
About that.
Okay. I think everybody knows me, Tim Hollenden. I work two markets, Louisville, Kentucky, and Gulf Shores, Alabama, licensed in three states. Got a lot of echoing in the background.
Yeah, I got
Um,
you.
Jeff and I'll just let everybody kind of introduce themselves, save us a little bit of time and get right to the content. But Jeff and I are in Dallas at a Michael Reese event called Dominant Listing Agent. So how appropriate, right? And we're spending 2 days with some of the best that have coached thousands and thousands, built a $10 million coaching company, just continuing to sharpen our saw so we can do better in our professions as well as, teach you all in your professions and together everybody wins. So I'm going to kick it off with really a thing that I've done in my listing career now of 23 years, coming September. I have used, and I'll need screen share, Kathy, if you haven't done that yet.
Yep.
Um, I have always used what we call a seller intake form. Basically, when you get a lead, the first thing you want to do is ask them a ton of questions. And I'm going to share that with you here in just a second. I've got to pop it up. I didn't realize I was going to kind of take off from the start here, Kat, but we'll get it. So just bear with me 1 second, please. Why don't we go around? Everybody introduce themselves real quick while I'm finding that file. Jeff?
Yeah, most of you guys know me, Jeff Morrell, Colorado Springs, been in real estate for 23 years. My wife and I worked together. We had a team for a long time. Been here at EXP for about 7 years. Been really good and great to be at this event. Always working on stuff. I think one of the things, just to share this, I think one of the things that prompted us doing this, of course, the market being what it is right now, almost all across the country. I'm talking to agents every day, everywhere, and days on market is going up like everywhere. And number of listings. I know Colorado Springs, where I'm at, we've got I think it's an 11-year high now of homes on the market, and so many just sitting there. And if it's priced right, it'll move. We've had multiple offers, still, but if it's not priced right, good luck. It's going to sit there. And we had a really good discussion on one of our Wednesday calls back about a month ago. And we're like, man, we need to do this for a Tuesday. And so this will be a little bit different format today. But anyway, excited to be here. Definitely look forward to sharing with you guys. Michael, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, sure. Michael Higdon, obviously with EXP Realty here in Louisville, Kentucky, 22 years in the business. And I think a lot of the things, some of the things we're going to talk about they could come across as basic to some of our older. Cover both sides of that. Yeah. And we had a great conversation just because there are some challenges in this turning market right now and what we're seeing. And I'm still an active agent, producing, specifically on the listing side. I probably do 80-20 listings to buyers. So just want to discuss some of the challenges that I'm seeing in the market and some of the opportunities that we have to do those price reductions and how, the verbiage that's you should use or could use with some of your sellers out there to convince them that there's the two prices out there. There's the I want price, and then there's the I get price. And a lot of people are stuck on that I want price of 2022 or 21. We're not there anymore. And those are the honest, true conversations that we have to have with our sellers.
Yes. And most of you guys know me, Kathy Carter here in Nashville, and I've been in real estate 26 years. And as you guys have gone around and introduced yourselves, I realized we got a century of realtors here just with the four of us. Oh, me old. But anyway, like I said, 26 years doing real estate. I was a manager broker at Keller Williams for several years, been at EXP now for about 8 years. And just still same things of what you've heard from these guys. We're in that shifting market that we haven't seen in a little while. And so as Michael mentioned, or Jeff, we had some good discussions about a month ago and thought it'd just be beneficial for the team here for us to just bring together, all of us, and we all have a lot of experience in real estate, as do many of you on this call. And so ultimately we want to make this a collaborative. We want to hear from you too, because y'all are out there in the field as well. And like Michael, I still do sell some here in Nashville. And so we're going to let Tim kick it off with his document that he utilizes right off the rip when he is sitting with the seller.
Yeah, actually, this is on the phone with the seller long before the listing appointment. So this a lead comes in, and yeah, I'm interested in selling my house, and they connect with me, and so and this isn't the form I'm personally using. This is one that was referenced yesterday that I thought was really good because it had a couple of things different than what I personally use. Are you all seeing the screen? Okay, the seller counseling
Yep.
interview. Okay.
Mhm.
So obviously, the name, the address being listed, the mailing address in the event that's a non-occupied owner, in case they live somewhere else, the different phone numbers, email, all the normal stuff, best time to contact. Sometimes it's good to ask preferred method of contact too. Do you prefer me to call you or email you or text you? That way you can deliver to them in a way that they prefer. Always, 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 always when you're talking to a new prospect, find out how did you hear about me? I want to know if my Facebook ads are working, my Instagram reels are working, my direct mail is working, whatever it is. Track your marketing, ladies and gentlemen. And then you get into the house, beds, bath, living room, dining room, all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that. Describe the lot. You want to know the setting. Tell me about the exterior. Do you have any outbuildings, decks, patios, etc.? Sprinkler, irrigation system, pool, in ground, above ground, fenced yard, covenants or restrictions, homeowners dues, that sort of thing. This is the next part is probably the most important thing on here. One of the most important things. What would you say are the best features of your home? And you know what you do when you ask that question? You shut up and you wait and you listen, and they're going to tell you, and you're going to say, what else? And shut up and say, what else? What else? What else? And this is the reason this is important, because when I get to the house, they have interviewed two, three, four uh, listing agents maybe. And when I see the feature that they like the best, I'm going to love it. Oh my gosh, this in-ground pool with the backdrop of those palm trees is absolutely gorgeous. And all of a sudden we have a connection based on something that I pre-learned that's one of their favorite features. So very important step. When would you like for this move to happen? Will you be staying in the area or moving away? Oh, really? Where to? There's your referral opportunity. If staying here, are you buying? Have you already bought, or will you be renting? If buying, set up the buyer specialist to get the details. If they're relocating, offer the referral. Target date. Is this your personal home, rental, occupied, or vacant? When would be a good time out to come out? And this is where you want to do an alternative close. I can be there, Friday at 3 p.m. or would Saturday morning at 10 a.m. be better? Is there anyone else involved in the sale of the home? Because if so, I would like them present as well. Have you done any upgrades since you've purchased? Are you aware of any repairs that might need to be done? Critical question right there. They're going to tell you, and then those are things we can use in the listing appointment. We might want to go ahead and get that taken care of. We might want to do a pre-home inspection. There's different ways. Everybody does this a little bit differently, so I'm going to glaze over some of that. But one of these examples might be, you might want to do and I'm going to say a commission of X, and I'm going to do these things for you, or X plus another 0.5%. I'm going to do all of these things for you. X plus 1%. I'm going to do all of these things for you. So a menu of commissions is really helpful, and it'll differentiate you with somebody just going to come in and say, I need this percent. And I'm not talking percentages purposely, and you all know why. But, we may pay for a pre-home inspection for them. We may pay for staging. We may pay for drone shots and professional photography and so forth on our higher end. Give them choices when you get there. On a scale 1 to 10, how would you rate your home? How long have you owned it? What did you pay for it? Some of these things we already know, but it's good to hear them say it. Have you had a recent appraisal or market analysis done? Why did you do that? It was a refinance. What was the value? Do you have an idea what you think the home will sell for? And some of them will push back on this and say, well, that's why I'm talking to you. Say, yeah, I get that, but you got neighbors, you're in a neighborhood. Is there a similar house that's like yours in the neighborhood that sold recently? And if so, what did it sell for? Try to pull that number out of them. How'd you arrive at that number? We talked a little bit about that already. Do you know what your approximate mortgage balance is? Some people say, well, why do you need to know that? Well, that's a great question. Do you know the most expensive part of selling your home? You all know what it is? Most of you are saying real estate commission. It's actually the payoff, paying off the current mortgage. The reason I need that balance, when I was doing short sales, I needed to know it. So if I was going into a regular listing or a short sale listing, because there was CDPE paperwork that I needed to bring on a short sale. But now I just say, well, I need to know the mortgage balance, because when we get together, I'm not just going to show you what I think we can sell it for. I'm going to show you what you're going to net. I'm going to bring all the title costs, all the appropriate, the normal, typical seller expenses in our market, and show you what you're going to walk away with. So that's why I need that number. Is there a second mortgage, any other liens, et cetera? You need to know all that to prepare that net sheet. I'm licensed in 3 states. In Alabama, that's a requirement. I have to do that. So the states that don't require that, you should be doing that. If necessary, are you prepared to bring money to closing? Short sales, we don't see a whole lot, but obviously if you've got a rough idea of what it's worth and you see what they owe, then you may want to talk about that. You may want to wait until you get to the house. But on a scale 1 to 10, how motivated are you to sell? What would it take to get you to a 10? Do you plan on interviewing other agents? Oh, really? Okay, who? And sometimes they'll tell you, sometimes they won't. But I want to know what my competition does. I'm going to research them before I go out. Now, since you're interviewing agents, I want to go last, and I would like you to make me a promise. We're going to be putting a lot of time and effort in getting ready for our appointment, and I'm going to show you some things that no one else can do. So would you do me the favor and not list your home with anyone until you've heard what I offer that no one else can offer you? Is that okay? Will you do that? One last question. If everything sounds good and the price is acceptable, will you be open to putting your home on the market when we come out Saturday at 10 a.m.? So is anybody doing this? Show of hands. Yeah, those of you that are doing it, you're well prepared. You've got expectations. You know what they think it's worth. And ladies and gentlemen, you shouldn't be walking in with a CMA. You should be walking in with data. Because I don't want a CMA with a preconceived notion of what I think it's worth. I haven't even seen the house yet. That wouldn't be fair to them. CMAs are becoming a thing of the past. And you can even say that, agent that brings you a CMA, that's based on historical data. We're in a declining market. If we price it based on values 6 months ago, we're already in a losing battle. The market's already passed us by. And for those of you on the call, I'll stop the share now and we can get back to this. But those of you on the call, most agents I talk to we're in a buyer's market now. It shifted about 3 months ago. If I listed the house 3 months ago, 4 months ago that I listed 1st of July, I would have sold it in a week or two. It took 40 days to sell it instead. Inventory sitting. I'm seeing price reductions on a daily basis in all 3 markets that I work. And all the agents I'm talking to are saying the same thing for the most part. So I'm going to stop there and let's have a conversation. But I did that because now you're better armed for the appointment, for the future discussions about price improvements. And I never say price reduction. I never say lower the price. We're going to improve the price improvements. The market's telling us we need to improve the price. The data is telling us we should be priced here. Wouldn't you agree? Those are the kind of things you want to say and ask. And we heard yesterday, I've heard this for years, you want to get 6, 7, 8 yeses from them during the listing presentation. Those are some of the types of questions, wouldn't you agree? So I'm going to stop there, see if my co-presenters have anything to add or say, and then let's keep this interactive. Again, we're not doing any kind of formal presentation. This is about you and providing value on this topic for you all today. So
I want to throw in just a couple things, Tim. And if you
Please.
could can you attach that file? Can you upload the file into the chat if you have
I
it
think
there
so.
for people to have? That'd be great. A couple things on that form. I just want to emphasize it. Asking them what sold them on the house. What are your favorite things about the house? That's a key question. And like Tim said, when you're walking through the house, whatever they mentioned, man, just it felt so open to us. The open floor plan, the vaulted ceilings, and to walk in and emphasize that, like, oh wow, like this is, what a great floor plan. It's so open. Like to emphasize that you're connecting with them when you can you're liking the things that they liked, but it's also the things that other buyers are probably going to like as well. So when it comes to marketing that home, that's a key thing. But then also, and I learned this early on, I remember I was probably my third or fourth listing. I remember this, and did not ask that question what they thought it would sell for, because I walked in armed and ready. I got these comps, whatever my comps were, like 500 to 550, and I remember when I'm there, and they're thinking like 750 to 800. I was so far off, I didn't even pull out my forms. I mean, I had to go rework that thing, get my broker involved. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're going to shoot me if I even bring up these companies. I had to rethink it all and look at it. And so, anyway, to ask that question to get a feel for what they're thinking before you walk in the door. Now, again, they might be way off. A lot of times sellers are. They almost always think it's worth more than what it is. So be ready for those kind of conversations, especially in this market. But two key questions on that whole form is awesome. If you can get that kind of stuff over a phone call, you're so ready to walk into that appointment. But Michael, what do you want to add to anything there?
Yeah, so much. And I kind of want to stack on top of that form of what Tim uses. And I've always been big on the pre-qualifying. I think that's the hidden power in what we do. Because remember, this is an interview process. They're not just interviewing us, but we're interviewing them. You want to be, as one of my coaches says, be careful who you put in your boat, because you may have to float around with them in that boat for a little while. Okay, so that's an interview process for the seller as well. I'm an old Mike Ferry coached guy. I will share the pre-qualifying script that we used to use, and let me know if you can see that. Can you see that? Okay, good. So it asks a lot of the same questions, just before I come out, and I'll put this in the chat when I'm done, but it just gives you a script to go by that's really complimentary of what Tim was talking about. And I will say that if you're talking and it's a couple that's selling a house, one thing I've always done is, let's say if I'm talking to the wife on the telephone, I want to find out, I want to be a journalist. I want to find out the who, what, when, where, and most importantly, the why. And I'm asking them the questions of, where are you moving to next? Oh, we're moving to San Francisco. That's exciting. What takes you to San Francisco? Well, I've got a job transfer going on there. That's exciting. Tell me more about that. Okay, we're moving to San Francisco. Well, I want to be closer to my parents. I want to do this. I want to do this, and get everything you can until they stop saying anything, ask anything else until they say, no, that's about it. And then you repeat back to them, gosh, you're moving to San Francisco. You need to be there by October. You're moving for a job transfer. You want to get closer to the family. You love the coast out there. That's a lot. Can you do that without selling this home? And then they had, well, no, we can't. Well, then we have a lot to get taken care of by October. So you set the appointment. When you go on the appointment, if it's a couple and you talk to the wife on the phone, gear the questions that you ask the wife to the husband and say, hey, you know what? I had a chance to talk to your wife prior to us meeting, and I just want to go over a couple of things that she was talking about. She said, you guys are moving to San Francisco, correct? He's like, yeah. She said, for the job transfer, for the coast, for the golf and the family. Is there anything else? He's like, well, yeah, I'm a huge fisherman. I want to be on the coast to go fishing as well. Oh, she didn't mention that. So fishing. And then you ask him the same thing, and then you're telling a story. So you want to do this, you want to do this again. Can you guys, accomplish all those goals of moving out to the San Francisco coast without selling this home? And then they say, well, no, we can't. Perfect. And that's what I'm here to help you do. And then you dive deeper into, because then you have the why. Without the why and knowing what their motivation is, the pricing's never going to matter. I mean, it matters, but again, because you can use that story later on when you're getting that price reduction. Guys, I understand the market's telling you this. Another technique I use when we're selling a home is like, look, we want to get market value of what the property's worth, and they may think it's $500,000, and you're going back and forth. That's fine. We can list it for this at 500,000, Mr. Seller, what would happen if we listed the property for $1 million? And they look at you and they're like, well, absolutely nothing. So you know what? I agree. It's probably way above what the market's going to allow a buyer to pay in this market. Now, on the other end, what happens if we list this property for 100,000, Mr. Seller? They're going to say, well, people are going to, bar the door. The offers are going to come in at probably 100,000. I said, probably more. You think 200,000? Yeah. Maybe 300,000? Probably. I said, so do you think they could come in somewhere in the middle between 100,000 and $1 million based upon what the buyers believe the property's worth? And they're like, yeah. So I don't determine value, Mr. Seller. I can never take credit for when your property sells above market value, and I can never take the blame for when the market tells you it's going to sell below. So our job as a real estate agent is just to find out what the market value is and market that out there and see how the market feels about that. Just a couple of thoughts there.
Great
Yeah.
stuff. Any
And-
questions or anything to add?
Well, I was just going to add what Michael was saying, and you basically said this, Michael, but I always tell my sellers that, and I like that verbiage that you just used, but I always tell my sellers as we're in that pricing discussion, the market ultimately is going to determine what your price is. It's not me, and it's quite frankly not you. It's the market. And then I loved how you just sort of wrapped that up. But I specifically will say that, to the client.
I've used an old fishing analogy for years, and I know it's kind of cheesy, but it works because I'll see that light go on above their head. And I ask them, say, have you ever gone fishing? And most people have said, well, yeah, absolutely. Do you ever use a bobber? You know what a bobber is? And they're like, yeah, that tells you if the fish are biting. Perfect. Let's say you cast that line out in the water and your bobber's right here and your bait's kind of high on the water. If that bobber's not moving, what do you have to do? And let's use that bait as price. Okay. Actually, the bait's the condition of the property, but where it's sitting is the price. What happens if no fish are coming up swiping at that? And they're like, well, you got to lower your bait. You got to lower your bait. Why is that? To lower where the fish are biting. What if nobody likes the bait or the smell or the fish? Like, we got to change your bait. So you got to change the word, meaning condition. So there's going to be two factors, Mr. Seller, that are going to sell your property. Controlling factors. Number one is going to be the condition. How does your home sell? Does it have purple shag carpet? Does it smell like dog? Does it smell like cat pee? Does it have crazy, wallpaper that you need to change out? Well, no, it shows pretty well. I agree with you. I don't think there's any conditional things that you need to change to make it more appealing to the public right now. So other than condition, which you're not going to change, what's the other factor we can control? And they're going to say, well, the price. Absolutely. I actually tell them there's four things. One is location. That's the old adage. Are you planning on putting your house on a big semi and moving it somewhere else? And they're like, well, no. I'm like, I don't think you should either, but that's not a non-controlling variable. The second one we look at is the location. I'm sorry, the location. The other one is the competition. Can you control who comes on and goes off the market in your neighborhood across the street? No. Can we use that as a benchmark, maybe to give us some guidance on where we need to be? If they come on the market, it's a very similar house and they're $50,000 below us. Should we be aware of that? Yes. Can we control that? No. Again, price, location, condition, competition. If you tell them all those things, it keeps coming back to price in this market.
Good stuff. Go ahead, Pete. You got a question, sir?
Yeah. Everybody
You're
hear me?
still screen sharing, Michael. Just FYI. Thank you. Go ahead, Pete. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Just make sure everybody can hear me okay. One I'm gonna see maybe if you could kind of help me and see if maybe tell me kind of where I went wrong with a particular client with the persuading to sell aspect. She came in on a buyer lead, and she was one that she was looking at she came in off a new construction. But then she was open to, she was very specific on a type of property that she needed in a particular area, but she also had a house that she had to sell in order to even to be able to make that offer happen, but the problem that I had is I could not, no matter how many times I went over, it's like, we can't, she can't buy that. We can't even make offers on that until we even looked at her property to get it on the market. I did an analysis on her property, the average, she had a bunch of property, bunch of homes for sale in her neighborhood. They were all, you know, you know, fairly higher up, not higher up, but for the market, they're kind of above average. And so she was just like, she didn't want to even analyze it, didn't even want to look at it until she found something. But there she had the average price of the homes in her market in her neighborhood were 90 days on market plus, and she didn't even want to look at selling, putting hers on the market until she found something. So I don't know if, I mean, it just could have just been one of those particular clients that just no, doesn't seem to be anything that I said or tried to persuade her or kind of move her in that direction. So we ended up having to kind of part ways because there's nothing that I could do no matter what I showed her. We was just, we were so far off the mark of being able to make anything happen that I just want to know, is there a way that maybe I should have handled that a little bit better to be able to move her in that direction? What would you think on that?
Who wants to take that?
Anyone?
I'm always asking, you ask that question, can you purchase this next house without selling yours? It comes down to it. And then just walk them through that. Let's say we run out, we find the absolutely perfect home for you. We get an offer on it. It's going to be contingent, correct, Mr. Buyer or Mrs. Buyer right now? They're like, yeah, that's great. Well, let's look at your house. If your house is on the market and somebody comes in as a buyer and they're contingent on the sale of your home, how excited are you about that? And you want to negotiate as a buyer on the property you're buying, right? Do you think a seller is going to be motivated to come down on their price when you can't even perform on the contract that you're writing?
Mhm.
And they're like, no, okay, so you've told me you can't negotiate on the property you're buying. You can't buy without selling your house. So why don't we go back to the one that's the main issue here, which is your home, so that you can perform on the purchase of yours. I promise you, the second that we have a contract on your house, we're going to find the next house for you, which once we have that contract, it's going to make you a stronger buyer to be able to negotiate, just like everybody else is going to negotiate on your house. Does that make sense?
And like I said, I think
You've
I handled
probably done all that. I'm not telling you anything you didn't do.
that's what I'm saying. It's just, I don't know if
And
there's
it just goes back to their motivation. If they're not
Right.
motivated to listen to you or they know everything, then it comes back to ego. And sometimes it's just like, I don't think it's you or any other agent. Sometimes it's just, I can't help you unless you want to help yourself.
Right.
Yeah, I guess maybe I don't know, maybe I need to do a little bit better job of setting expectations, maybe of what we can and cannot do. I think maybe this was one I was just kind of, you know she was like one of my first ones. Was like, oh, hey, let's do whatever we can. Let's start to to move forward, and maybe I put the cart in front of the horse a little bit on it. So
Yeah, the
Yeah.
prequal is key. I think showing them, listen, all these homes in your neighborhood, the average days on market's 90 days. This is now a buyer's market. And that's actually good news for you as a buyer because you're going to not be pressured like we were 2 years ago when you were one of 20 people writing an offer over asking price and praying you would get it and giving up appraisals and having appraisal gaps and so forth. You're in a different situation now. And what I found in 23 years doing this business is everything happens for a reason. If we lose this house that's your favorite right now, there's a really good chance something else is going to come on the market that you're going to love even more. So what we need to do, I mean, you got to do step one before step two. We absolutely have to get your house under contract and then we'll go buy your house. Otherwise, you're not going to be attractive. Yeah, we can try to do a contingency. And if you'd like me to do that, I'll do that. But be prepared to lose it because a buyer that does have cash or is pre-approved or doesn't have anything to sell can come in and just kick us right out. So let's not get the cart before the horse. Let's get your house on the market at the price where the market's going to want to buy it, not these other yahoos in your neighborhood they're just sitting on the market. There's your proof it's a buyer's market. Those people entered the market thinking it's still 2024. Well, it's 2025 in July. The year's half over. We're in a totally different situation. We have a window right now today of about 45 days to get your house under contract because it's going to slow down. It does every year when school starts again. So we've got to capture the buyer that needs to be in this area for this school system today, and get you under contract beyond that. I hope that was helpful. Jeff, were you going to say something, sir?
Well, again, yeah, and everything you guys are saying is awesome. I think what Michael said too. I think just finding the motivation, why they want to make this move. I mean, the bigger the why, the more leverage you have in terms of getting it to the right price in this market. I mean, they want to get closer to the grandkids. The grandkids live across the country, and finding out what it is. Michael's thing, San Francisco. We have to sell this house to make the move, and yes, we want to make this move big time. Like figuring out that why of what they're going to do, and then using the net proceeds. Because here's the thing, sometimes what I'm seeing right now, there's so many sellers, again, they're still living 2 years ago, and they want this amount for their house when realistically it's going to sell right here. And they could sell it right here and net what they need to net to make their move, but they're stuck on this price. And sometimes I've had these conversations with sellers. Well, how much do you need to be able to move across the country to be with your grandkids? Well, we need to sell it for 700,000. No, that's not what I asked you. How much do you need to make that move? What do you need to have to be able to make the move to go? Well, we need 200,000. Okay, well, we could list, if we sold at 650 and we do that, and here's the closing costs, and here's your title insurance, and here's all the thing, and we run out the net sheet, you're walking away with 250,000. Like, we've got a lot of room here to be able to make this move happen for you. Is it worth the ego of it's worth this much? Or do you want to just make this move and get to be close to your grandkids? I mean, there's ways to have those kind of conversations, to get that price improved and to get that price adjustment. Does that make sense? Am I saying that right to people? Yeah. And Tim,
Yeah,
I don't know if you want to
absolutely.
add anything to that. I mean, again, I don't know if need is the right word for that, whatever. But I think sometimes people are stuck on a price versus they really don't need to sell it at that price to accomplish what they're trying to accomplish, you know?
Yeah,
Eh,
I like the word net instead of need because I'm going to say two things here. First of all,
Sure.
when I go into a listing appointment, I say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm not your average run of the mill agent. You know, I want to sell your house. I don't want to list it. I said, you've probably talked to other agents that have told you your house is worth more than it really is. And they're telling you that just so their sign's in the yard because they're trying to convince you they can sell it for that price. I'm not that agent. I hope you're okay, but I'm going to be 100% honest with you and completely transparent. Are you okay with that? I'm going to tell you maybe what you don't want to hear. And that's not, don't take it out on me. That's what the market's telling us. So I start with something like that. An overpriced listing with somebody else's sign in the yard doesn't help you one bit. It helps them. It helps them sell other houses in your neighborhood that are priced correctly. So I start with that. And then back to what you were saying, Jeff, net instead of need. What's the amount you would like to net that gets you to your destination? Not what do you need. In all due respect, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what you need has nothing to do with the home's value. Back to what Kathy said earlier, the market's going to tell us what the home is worth. Not me, not their appraiser. The market's going to tell us. So I would use that instead of what you need is too top line to me. I think if you can get inserted in there, the net, in other words, what would you like to walk away with? What's the magic number that's going to allow you to move on? Let's move to the house. You get there. The very first thing I do is I walk in the door and I head for the kitchen table and I set all my stuff down except my notebook. And everybody can chime in here, and then I go back to the front door. I say, I want to experience your house the way a buyer would when they're looking through it. Let's go back to the front door. And I always go in a clockwise direction because some of these houses are pretty big and I want to remember what room is tied into what room. So if I do the same thing every time, first floor, clockwise from the front door, go up the steps, clockwise upstairs, down the basement. If you got basements, clockwise. So be consistent. And remember those things they told you they liked best about the house on the intake form. You want to capitalize on that. That's going to establish rapport. Get back to the kitchen table. Listen, I hate that. Do you mind? Would you be so kind as to get me a glass of water? I've already been talking all day today. I really appreciate it. What you've done there is you've just taken control of the conversation. There are little things like that you can do. And then you're going to get into the data again, not the CMA. Somebody else jump in. He's like, I don't want to take all the thunder, but I'd
I
like
just
the
think I
different
think right now
perspectives.
I just think right now it's important to, I don't want to say overwhelm them with data, but you've got to go in there with good data. You've got to go in there with a lot of stuff about the market. Let's look at all the homes in this neighborhood. Let's look at the days on the market. Here's the ones that sold in 30 days. Let's look at their price. Here's the ones that have been on the market for 90 days. Let's look at their price and how many price reductions have they had, and all this kind of stuff. And just around comps, whatever, all these different things. You you know the range of where this is going to sell if you've done your homework, and they're always thinking up here, and you've got to be able to try and guide them into this range. I think one of the things that prompted this, I remember when we were on our Wednesday meeting back a month or 6 weeks ago, whatever, and my wife and I had an appointment with some people, and it was kind of like one of those ones where, like, I mean, here's the price, and we had all the stuff. Here's the price. This is where it's going to sell, and the sellers were, well, let's try this. And I told him, I said, I just told him, I said, I got to be honest, I'm not your let's try it guy. I'm just not in this market. Here's the thing, we could try it. I'll do that, but we're going to do it for about 10 days tops. If we sit here for 10 days and we've had no showings or even one show, whatever, we're going to lower the price. We have to lower the price. I'm just saying, like, the market is going to give us feedback. You're either priced well or you're overpriced. Well, we haven't had enough showings to get feedback. No, the market's giving you feedback. They're not interested in your home at this price. There's your feedback. So I might take that listing, but I'm going to get a price reduction right there on the listing agreement. If we haven't had this many showings by this date, we're going to lower the price to here, and we're going to initial on that. I don't even have to call you for a price reduction. We're going to do it. You'll go on the MLS or on the computer and you'll see that your price has been reduced 10 days from now if we haven't had this many showings. And I'm going to say this all in a nice way. I'm kind of, but I think, I'm not coming at them like this, but I think we got to be able to have those conversations. And I did. I told them, I said, I'm not the let's try it guy. And they weren't willing to do that. They were nice, but I ended up walking away from that listing. I didn't take it. And I'm telling you right now, I looked the other day, that house has been sitting on the market at that price that they asked for. It's been sitting there now for 2 months. It's just sitting there. All that does is cost me money. I'm just not interested I don't need every listing. It's like, do you want to list your house or do you want to sell your house? Tim said that earlier. If you want to sell it, I'm all about it. If you want to list it, I could get 10 realtors out here in the next half hour that'll give you the next highest price to get your listing. And where they make their money is off the buyers. They don't want your house to sell. They're getting sign calls and everything else. And that's what they're doing. Do you want to sell it or do you want to list it? Two different things. I'm your sell guy. We'll sell it. We can sell it all day long. We've had multiple offers here recently on homes, but they listened to us and they priced it where it needed to be. And I can show them that data. Look at this one. It was on the market for 10 days and we had 3 offers the first weekend and got it under contract. That is still happening if it's priced right. If you overprice it, you now just became a listing that. Do you want sellers or buyers coming into your house, agents bringing buyers into your house to show them? Let's look at this one. Now let's go down here. Look at the value you're getting down here. Remember that one we just looked at? They priced it here. Look at this one, and that one ends up selling. Do you want to be that house? They're just using you to go sell other homes in the neighborhood, showing people how overpriced you are to get a better deal over here. Like, I don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be that guy. It's just important, I think, in this market to be able to have those kind of conversations and even tough conversations like what Tim said. I'm going to be very honest with you. I'm going to be blunt with you, and this is why we've sold this many homes over these last however many years and all this kind of stuff. You can use some of that. So anyway, there's just something I'll throw out. So.
Good stuff there, brother. Couple
Can
things.
Can I make a comment? I'm sorry, Tim.
Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Just wanted to hop in and piggyback on this comparative market analysis and the whole providing the right number, trying to get to that number. And one of the things that I picked up, I was able to attend the dominant listing class about a month ago. And one of the key things that they brought into was, first off, when they're having negotiation with the client right up front, instead of using a comparative, they called it a competitive market analysis. And there's a piece of software called Focus First software that
Yep.
provides this really nice, what's called a scattergram, and it shows a detailed data points
That's very
on
good.
what traditional, where it would sell, like maybe using data from 10 years ago, all up through and going past today into the future and where that property might sit. Very cool stuff. And it separates you from everybody else, because you can go into your meeting with the seller and go, look, every other realtor is going to come in here and give you a comparative market analysis. But that's old news. I've got a competitive market analysis for you. And here's
Right.
the, and then go through the Focus First software. It's really cool. I just wondered if any of you guys have looked at that yet, or how do you come up with the magic number, you know, other than
Well, it's harder
data?
without a tool like that. And I appreciate you bringing that tool up. Jeff and I decided we weren't going to talk about that because we haven't personally used it, therefore can't endorse it. But I
I'm
appreciate your
sorry.
endorsement.
Yeah,
No, that's
No,
okay.
you're good.
If you bring
You're
it up,
good.
that's fine. I just
Have you
don't ever
used it,
want
Jim?
to.
You're using Focus First?
I've been looking at tutorials on it. I haven't purchased it yet. It is a purchase, so I'm thinking about it, but it's really it's quite in depth.
And
But
basically, what he's talking about, it has the ability to go back 2 years or whatever date range you want to give it. Here's everything that happened in the past. Other agents are going to bring in a CMA and they're going to show you what happened, those comparables, those sales. Well, if we're in a rising market, that does you no good. Then you're pricing your house too low. If we're in a declining market, that does you no good because you're going to miss the market. You're priced too high. What this tool does that he's talking about gets you both the history and the future. And it's got some AI built into it where it actually does a predictive analysis about what's going on based on the actives now, how long they've been on the market, how many price reductions they've had, and so forth. So jot that number down or that name down and evaluate that. But I'm not endorsing it. I haven't used it, but it looks like a phenomenal tool. And back to what Jeff said, that his last comment is why I said, remember, I told you I'm going to shoot you straight. That's when I bring up the sign. That's when I say, I'm not. I put way too much money into marketing my homes to take an overpriced listing. I'm not your guy if you just want to put it on the market. Michael, anything to add? Piggyback?
Oh yeah, I mean, I always say my sign in the yard for a long period of time is only me advertising myself as being an incompetent agent that can't sell your home. So it's
Yep.
just it does me no
yeah,
good to sit out there too
uh,
long. I will share one slide. I'll send out a packet of information to folks, and I'm sure you all have seen these before. And I'll sit down with the seller and just say, Mr. Seller, based upon the activity we see, this represents the number of weeks on the market. Our National Association of Realtors says you should have anywhere between 4 to 7 showings within the first 2 to 3 weeks being on the market or one offer. And I want you to remember these numbers. I said, you strike me as somebody that's very clever and a good memory, but most sellers get amnesia when I start talking about these numbers. So I want you to write this down and remember this, because if you don't have those first numbers right there, you're about 5% overpriced. And if you have 0 showings, 0 offers after the first 2 to 3 weeks, you're about 10% overpriced. We see those numbers to hold true with for sale by owner, sometimes expired listing cancels that come off the market. So remember that when it comes time to delve into those price corrections or price improvements, as Tim likes to say. The other technique I'll use is, Mr. Souther, we have to think sometimes as a buyer on the back end. And this is a listing. This is one of my listings that I took. It wasn't for sale by owner. It's still on the market. I told him it was overpriced. We took it at 669. We recently did a $40,000 price drop on it. And one of the techniques I want to use is, I'm not a big fan of Zillow, but they are the 800-pound gorilla in our world. So let's piggyback on the data that they're giving us free and go on here and look at what they're calling their buyability. So let's transfer from the seller to say, okay, let's be a buyer and see what the buyer sees in this market right now. So not only has your Zestimate dropped over the last month from 630 down to 6094, we can also look at, as a buyer, if you make an offer at 590, you're going to come in as a pretty strong offer. Then you can see competitive, that's going to be 682 to 590. Moderate 577 to 581, and a weak offer would be less than 576. So, Mr. Seller, you can see that the range we initially talked about, probably in the 620 to 670 range, has dropped based upon our time on the market and where the presumable market is heading. So, do you want to be ahead of that wave at the 590 mark, or do you want to continue just to kind of go down in slow increments where the market is? Which one works better for you, Mr. Seller?
Good stuff. Thank you, Michael. Andy and Lily made the comment, only the realtor knows the home condition and upgrades after the on-site visit. That made me think, excellent point, first of all, that made me think, if you're looking at comps, all the stuff in the past, we don't know if your neighbor's house was in bad condition, if it needed updates to the kitchen and bathrooms. We know nothing about it other than, the photographs. And sometimes they don't tell all, because a lot of times agents leave off photos on things the home needs. So you don't have that data. So we have all that historical comparable solds, but we really have no knowledge of the house. So another thing that's smart to do if you have time between the initial phone call and the appointment is go look at all their competition. You can go through every house in their market, 5 minutes each, and see every house in their neighborhood in an hour, and write down things that you remember about that house that really stood out, because chances are maybe those sellers are, or they've been in that neighbor's house, and for you to say, oh yeah, that house with the red fireplace, whatever, just come up with something in every house that's memorable that you can talk about, that's showing your stuff. Yeah, I've been in every one of those homes. They can't tell you anything you don't already know about and they try to do that. I've been on many listing appointments. Well, so and so sold their house down the street for blah 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 blah. Yeah, but it was 3,000 square foot. We're at 2,200. It had 4 beds, 3 baths. You have 3 beds, 2.5 baths, et cetera, et cetera. So do your homework. Go in with the expert. Go in with the knowledge. And one thing I want to come back to that Jeff made me think of is one thing, and I hadn't heard this before, but when you're looking at price reduction, we heard this yesterday in class, the 1521 plan. If we haven't had 15 showings in 21 days, if 15 showings happens and we have no offer, or 21 days has passed and we've had no offer, we have a problem. We overshot the market. That's when it's time to discuss a price improvement, even if they did what you told them to do, and set that expectation up front. If we don't have 15 showings and get an offer, or 21 days has gone by and we have no offer, we've missed the mark. We're going to have a serious conversation about, okay, the market has changed even since we listed it. It's time to talk about an improvement in the price.
That leads to some good questions, Tim. Like from an objection handling standpoint, seller, you'd say, you keep wanting to drop the price. Well, you just want to give my house away, or all you want to keep doing is dropping the price. How do you handle those objections from a seller?
So remember when we first met, I said, I'm always going to be 100% honest with you. And sometimes you're not going to like what I have to tell you. This is not me telling you. This is me interpreting the data. The buyers, 15 buyers came through and not a single person made an offer. 3 weeks on the market. Look at all the data I brought, and assuming you're bringing data in about, how many views it's had on this website and this website, as you can see, I've done my part. And as you told them in your little spiel there, I can't be responsible for selling it over ask or below ask. The market is going to determine our price. So all I can do is give you professional advice based on what I'm seeing the market tell us.
I've used sometimes too, just even like, what their monthly payment is, what's your monthly payment? It's about 3,000 a month. So let's say we sit here 3 more months, there's $9,000 more in payments that you're not getting back when it sells. Most of that's going to be interest, whatever. We could drop the price right now by 6,000 and get you out of here. And again, accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. The other thing too, and I've subscribed now for probably the last 3 years to Keeping Current Matters. And I can definitely recommend that one in terms of just good graphs and charts. It's more from a national standpoint, but they also have a local service as well if you want to look into that. But it's pretty inexpensive. I don't know, 40, 50 bucks a month or something, but great for, blogs, great content that you use for videos that you're doing, that kind of stuff. But, every week they're putting out stuff right now about pricing and stuff for sellers. to hear, and the days on market going up across the country and different things. I was just looking, there's this right here. I'll just share the screen real fast. Like this was just one from this last week. Price reductions are on the rise, and just again to go in with that data, it's like don't shoot the messenger. Like I want you to get the highest price you can. The more money you make, the more money we all make. I mean, whatever. I'm taking money out of my commission too. The lower this goes. I mean, that's just how this works. But it's like, but again, to interpret the data and help them see the data. And to walk in with different charts and graphs and tools. And, you can take a lot of stuff now, put it in Chat GPT. I did that the other day, and it came up with charts and stuff, based on info. There's lots of stuff that you can do to help them understand the state of the market. Because I'm telling you, most of these sellers, they're living in 2022 and 2021. That's where we're at right now. And that is not the market we're in. We all know it, so.
Guys, this is opportunity. I love a bad market.
Question. It is. That's a good point. It really is. It's a way to capture some good market share and be a hero. But I think too, just even, I don't know. Well, there's different guarantees you can do. I don't want to get off on that. What kind of questions do you guys have? Anything?
I just had a question. Hello.
Yeah.
Hey, Marcelino. Hey, so I was just wanting to know if you, I've been listening that Aaron Novello, he goes through a way of when he's talking with the sellers, like, look, based off of the information that I've provided you, we're taking off our seller's hat, we're putting on our buyer's hat. If you were to buy this home all over again, based off of what that has been, on the market sitting there for 90 days and what is sold in the last, month, where would you feel, comfortable about making an offer on your home if you were to buy it all over again? And he goes through that way. So then they kind of be like, well, if I have to buy it again based off of this stuff, he's like, well, that's going to be the same thing when you go to buy your other home. You're going to be coming to a realtor, a professional like me. If you're staying around here, we're going to provide you that same information so you can make a good idea of where you want to make an offer on that future home. And so the buyers that are coming here looking at your house, they're going to be doing the same thing. I just don't know if you guys have, ever used something like that just so they can, be like, okay, I'm in a buyer's mindset. Looking at all this data on my house, I'm in a buyer's mindset. Where should I price it based off of what I would actually make an offer on this home in this condition, in today's market?
That's really good.
Can I piggyback on that?
Yeah, go ahead, Sean.
Marcelino, I take that same advice. I tell you, my best tip, if I'm meeting with the seller I know is not realistic, is I'm going to actually physically go show them a house in their neighborhood and say, if this was you, are you still at 600 or are we now more realistic at 550 or whatever it is, to have that conversation? They can get their mind around it, because most people think their house is worth way more than it is. It's just a natural thing we all have. And we need to break that down a little bit. And they realize, wow, this house is nicer than mine. Maybe I'm not so realistic. It tries to lower that bar a little bit.
I love that.
That's a great tip.
100%. Yeah, it really is.
That's powerful. I don't think I've ever heard anybody taking someone to another house within the neighborhood. That's amazing.
I schedule it right after my listing appointment. I schedule it right after. And I only do that at certain markets. Like this market's a good market for that. So we're all going to get out. I do it 1 hour after I schedule mine with them. And then we're going to walk it. You're the buyer now. Do you really feel your house is X when you can get a lot more for Y, or whatever that is? It moves them. We're trying to move them to be realistic.
And if you preview,
go ahead.
If you preview the other active listings that you consider competitive properties, you're going to be able to intelligently talk about those houses. But if you do need to sell them on it, or if they need to see it themselves, and a photograph of their kitchen compared to their own kitchen doesn't do it. I love that idea. I've not done that, Sean, but that's an awesome idea.
Yeah.
Jeff?
Well, I was going to say, even to take 4 or 5 like comparable listings, like in their neighborhood, in their area, whatever, like the full listing, all the pictures, everything, and take that with you, or have that ready on your laptop to just show them. And let's look at these, to really compare their home, just to help with that. Can be good. So yeah, no, that's a great idea, Sean. doing that. I think too, just to add something more, I mean, to have these conversations, like it's typically either a buyer's market or a seller's market. It's very rarely is it balanced. You know, it's one or the other. So you're going to win on one side, you're going to pay a little bit more on the other side, or vice versa. You know, it's like we all want to win on both sides. But you know, the same way, you're going to get a great deal when you buy. You know, whatever. If we're going to help you over here on the buy side. You might take a little bit of a hit over here on the sell side from where we were a year ago, or whatever. But you're going to win over here. It's hard to win on both sides because it's either a buyer's or seller's market. Right now, it's a buyer's market. So you might take a little bit of a hit on the sale, but we're going to get you a good deal over here on the other end. You know, and so again, just having these conversations. You know.
Good stuff. Who else has questions in our few minutes we have left, guys?
Man, I got one more if you don't mind.
Okay.
Jim, let me just say one thing real quick. I apologize. Michael, I just gave you host because I've got to jump for a webinar that I'm hosting. So good combos, guy. Thanks so much. Go ahead, Jim. Apologize.
Thank you. Hey, no problem, Kathy. Thank you for being here. Yeah, I just wanted to hop back in, change the thought back to what Mr. Guys, he's still here. Mr. Pete Garcia in Fort Worth, Texas, was asking earlier about the problem he had with buying a home, the customer wanting to buy a home before they sold their home. And I've been experienced with a product called Up Equity. If he's interested in looking at that, it's probably worth looking at. And I dropped a marketing sheet in the chat for him. If you guys don't mind, it's in there. It's just something to look at, but it's a way to get this company Up Equity to purchase a house for you with no contingency, and while you can sell your home. So it's just an option for him if he would like to look at that. There you go. And that's it, man. I appreciate everybody's wisdom today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks for sharing that. And there's a lot of lenders out there. I mean, not only are there mortgages where you can, buy the new house and then sell the other house. There's some lenders actually have programs where they will give you an offer on your house. Worst case, still let you put it on the market, go buy your new house. And if it doesn't sell in 60 days or 90 days, then you get the price and then they have the responsibility of selling it. So good stuff. Who else? We got just a minute or two left. Anybody else have a last comment or question or two?
I do need to duck out, Tim. I've got another meeting here I got to jump on right now.
Okay.
So, but guys, thank you very much. Okay. Have a great day. Thanks.
Thanks, Jeff. All right. Anybody else? Michael, close us out, brother.
I think that's really good information. I think the sheets that we provided, use those as a solid resource. And again, goes back to finding the motivation and start out with every listing presentation you go into, and that'll help you all the way down the line, get it to the closing table.
Yeah.
So with that being
Go in
said,
with
we wanna thank
knowledge.
everybody.
Yeah. Thank you. Go in with knowledge, go in with data. The data will tell the story, so you don't have to. If the customer's intelligent, they'll figure it out. You just got to lead them to the point where you need them to end up based on your professional expertise. So, all right, guys,
All right.
we'll see you next Tuesday or tomorrow on the collab call. Thank you all so much.
Thank
Thanks
you
a
all.
lot.